So what are social media bots? You have heard about social media bots by now. They are special computer programs that help us on social media. It can be on Twitter, on Facebook, on Reddit, YouTube, or any social media platform. So how do these social media bots work? Social media bots are written in code. They're computer programs, and they're written with a computer programming language. In this case, we're using the Python programming language. That means that as it is a computer program, we tell the bot what to do, and it will follow our instructions. So that can be posting messages, specific temperatures, or whatever you wanted to post it, images, videos. The bot is just a program, and it will follow our instructions. Social media bots can do many things. So they can post messages, they can post pictures, answer our questions, help us find information, and they can make the whole social media experience much better. So basically the social media bot can do everything that the platform allows and whatever you make it to do. So it could be that you make it just post text or a certain message, but it could be that you wanted to upload a picture every day, or more complicated things, like it could be that your bot is interactive and other users can interact with the bot. It can answer questions and such kind of things. But the whole idea of bots is to make your social media experience better. What is better? It depends on what is your need for the bot. So it could be that it just provides information, but you can also use it for marketing. Like if you have a course and you want to sell the course, maybe you want it to post to social media automatically. It really depends on what you want the bot to do. It's just a program, and it will follow the instructions that you tell it to do. Making your own social media bot is fun, and it's also easy to learn, and it's a fun way to get better at a programming language. So do you want to make a cool bot together? Let's do it. In this course, we'll be using the Python programming language to create the bots. You should already know the Python programming language, but if you are not familiar with the programming language, you should still be able to follow along doing all the steps, and you will have a working social media bot by the end of this course. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you learned something new today. So don't forget to give it a try and program your own bot, and that does whatever you want it to do. Hi, have you ever heard of programming? Programming is like giving a computer instructions to do something. Just like you might tell someone what you want for dinner, in programming we tell the computer what to do. There are many programming languages, but today we're going to learn about one of the more popular ones, Python. With Python we can do all sort of things, like making games, creating animations, or even making our own websites. We can use it to solve math problems or make the computer talk to us. The possibilities are endless. Any program you see on the computer is made in a programming language, which could be Python. So we use Python by writing commands, so-called code, and then run that code. The computer takes the code and uses it to do what we tell it to do. So we cannot speak English to the computer. We must write in code, in this case Python code, and then the computer will obey those commands. Let's start with a classic example, the classic programming example, Hello World. This is a simple program that just prints the words Hello World on the screen. So here's the code for that. It just is one line of code, print Hello World. Notice that the text is between quotes. So you'll see here, any text you have must be between quotes. And we are telling the print command, and that will output it to the screen. Now, this is the text itself, and it must be between brackets. So when you run this code, this Python code, the computer will print hello world. Python can do many mathematical operations, like here we have x and y, and it sums those. And in addition to just outputting things and calculating things, you can also ask the computer for keyboard input. For example, we can ask the user or whoever uses the program for their name, and then output that. So when you run this code, the computer will ask the user for their name and then print their name with a nice greeting. Whenever you want keyboard input, you can always use input. So this will always ask for input, and this is the text it shows before you can type the keyboard input. Then that input is stored here, and you can then output it like this. You can work with different types of data with Python. So for example, just regular numbers, floating point numbers, text. Text are sometimes called strings. And you can work with lists. So for example, a list of numbers here. And the only difference here is just how we define it. So here, when we just want regular numbers, we just type the numbers. When you want floating point numbers, you type with a dot in between. When you want text, you make those quotes around it. So that's how Python differentiates between different types of data. When you want a list, you put those brackets around it and commas in between. So different types of data with Python. Now, Python can do all kind of mathematics, so anything that you can do in math, you can do with the Python programming language. Let's take a look at functions. Sometimes you want to use a piece of code more than once. That's where functions come in. Functions are like programs that you can use over and over again just by calling the function's name. So here we have a function called add, and then we have a function call, and you can, this is like a small program, a function, and you can call this as many times as you want with just the name of the function. So any function starts with the words def for define, and then you can call that function again and again. So let me give you an example. Here we have a function that, given a name, it prints the name to a screen. The function is called greet, and we know it's a function because it has the characters def or define in front of it. A function must be called. If this is the program, it doesn't do anything. We need to call it with its name. So we can say greet with whatever name. If you run the program, you'll see it run the function. You can call a function multiple times with the same input or with different input. So you'll see the function has now been called 5 times, which matches the program where we call the function 5 times. Programs we made so far were top-down, so every operation is done in order. Sometimes you want to do things a bit different based on conditions. For example, we might want the computer to print too hot if the temperature is over 80, or just right if the temperature is between 70 and 80. You can do that with the so-called if-then statements. So here we have a simple program that says if x is greater than y, then it does this code. If it's not x is not greater than y, then it won't do that code. Now you can also repeat code. So if you have a line of code that you want to repeat, for example with numbers, then you can use a for loop or a while loop that will repeat lines of code. Now it will only repeat the lines of code that have 4 spaces before. So you'll see these have 4 spaces before. That's why they get repeated. So the first control flow block, that is only do something if something is true. The next blocks are for repeating code. So 2 different ways to repeat code. So you can imagine if you want to print the numbers 1 to 1000, you could use the print statement 1000 times, or you could use a for loop or while loop that does it, that repeats the code block automatically. Python has a lot of built-in functionality, but sometimes we want to use functionality that isn't built in. So that's where modules come in. Modules are like extra pieces of code that you can use in your own code, like components. You can use several components and use that to create your program. Hi there. Today we're going to learn about APIs. So you might have heard about secret handshakes between friends. An API is like a secret handshake between 2 computer programs. Now, you might think of a computer program as just something running on your computer, but anything on the web is also a computer program, like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or any website for that matter has a program behind it. So with an API, computer programs are allowed to talk to each other and share information through that API. So here we have a Python example with 3 lines of code. And let's say you want to know the weather. So what you do is import a requests module. Then you get data from that web URL, from that API. See API here on the openweathermap.org. Then it gets a response, and when you output that response, you know the current weather for, in this case, London, UK, was inside that link. So that is an example of how you can use an API. So why would you use an API? Well, you want to communicate with many things on the internet. It can be social media or anything else, or even another computer program. Then when you have an API, you can access all of its functionality without having to worry about all kind of other complexities. You can just worry about your program. So let me give you an example. Let's say you want to make a new video game, and the video game needs to know the information about the current weather. Well, you could try to write code that contacts the weather station, and then inside the weather station convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius or vice versa, and check the units and check the geolocation and all that. But that quickly gets very complicated. And so what you could do instead is communicate with an API. That's an API that is like a software running somewhere that you can communicate with. And then through that communication, you can then access whatever information you need from other software programs. So it makes it a lot easier when you use APIs. APIs are also used in social media. So all of these social medias have a different API. For example, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and any social media network you can think of. And they have an API. For example, you can use an API to post a message on Twitter from a computer program, from a Python program. You can do the same thing for Reddit. So you can post something to Reddit using the Reddit API. And so it's like the connector between your program and the social media network is the API. So you can think of it like a connector or a secret handshake that lets you communicate with those software platforms. So by using the API, you can easily share information to the other platforms and get information and do all kind of functions. So there's a lot of functions available and they're different on every platform. For example, posting on Reddit, posting on Twitter. But on Reddit, for example, you can also get information from a subreddit, which is specific for that platform. But you can access all of the publicly available functions, and you can use that to create your bots. Now, APIs are not only used in social networks, so they're used in many different websites. And also outside of websites, they are used, for example, they can be used for certain electronics or other things. So in summary, APIs are like secret handshakes or connectors between two computer programs, and they are created because, or you can use them because it makes it easy to let them share information and talk to each other. Without an API, writing software would become very complicated because you don't have any way that the components communicate with each other. So you might have to write the whole program itself or do all kind of network codes, and it gets very complicated. And the API is just very easy. You just call the function that you want. As you saw in the code example, just one line of code that says, okay, this link gets the weather from London, UK, and it returns the information directly. You don't have to write any weather station code. So APIs make it easy for applications to talk to each other, to share information, and also to call remote functionality. And that's why we use APIs. They just make it easy for different computer programs to work together and share information. And there's basically no reason not to use an API. And sometimes there's no API available. In such a case, it gets very hackish. Maybe you need to start a web browser, and then you need to use the code to control the web browser, to get information and to click with the mouse on all kind of locations. So it's a very tedious process. You can do that with Python Selenium that I have a course about on this platform. But the most easy way to make two programs talk to each other, for example, your program and talk to a weather station, or talk to the weather API, or your program and talk to the Reddit API to talk with that social media platform, is through the API. If you don't use an API, it just gets very, very hackish. It's possible, it's a lot of fun, but when you want to make quick programs, then it just takes a lot of time. For example, you can use Selenium to do all of that website automation, and you can basically automate anything, but it's a more time-consuming process. And using an API is just very easy. There's just certain commands that you can communicate with. They're all web commands. For example, here you see a web URL. You recognize maybe the HTTP slash that is always used in websites. So basically you have web addresses that you can communicate with, and they return data that you want. In this case, London, UK is in the web link. And then you get a response. Now, most APIs, they also use an API key to access their API. So there might be just public calls, so without API key, but for most actions, like in Twitter posting a tweet, or on Reddit posting a new Reddit post, or any other social media action, they most likely use an API key, which you need to get to interact with the API. Hi. Are you ready to start coding with Python? You might have already run some Python programs. But today we're going to talk about a special tool called a Python IDE, or a development environment. An IDE is a special tool that makes Python coding easier and more fun. So what is this IDE stuff all about? Or why would you use it? An IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Now, a lot of complex words, but basically it's a software app, or just an app that lets you write Python code. And it's a special app because it makes writing Python code easier. So you can use an IDE if you want to write code faster and with fewer mistakes. And it has all kind of tricks to make you make less mistakes and make programming easier. So what is a Python IDE? It's a special kind of app or special kind of software to write and run Python code. Just like if you were to draw something, you might have a drawing notebook where you put your drawings. If you write things, you might have a special notebook for your stories. And the Python IDE is like a special notebook for writing code. It's more than a text editor, because a text editor is just black and white screen, for example, Notepad, and you can just type code there. but it's not really made for writing code. It's the wrong tool for the job. And just like when you have a car wheel, you can't use it on a bicycle. Or maybe you can, but it's not very practical. And so there are special software created for programming, and those are Python IDEs. So many different programs for that, and we'll take a look at some of these programs. And you'll see some of them on the screen here, like Spider, PyCharm, which is a very popular one. You have Eclipse here, Anaconda, and many different IDEs. Now, one of the simple IDEs is idle. It usually comes with Python. So it's a very simple IDE. You can use this idle program to write and run code. As you see on the right there, the person wrote some code here and it got some output. So you can use it. And you'll see it also has some coloring here. So it makes it a bit easier to read than just black and white screen. So idle is a great choice if you are just starting out with Python and want to just try out some simple code. If you want to make more complex programs, that as we are doing in this course, then you are better off downloading some other IDE. For example, Visual Studio Code or any of the others that supports many more features. So Visual Studio Code is another IDE. You can use it to write Python code. This is also available for free. So all of these IDEs are available for free. You can download them from the internet and try them out on your own and see what do you like most. So this one has a lot of features. It has this coloring feature again called syntax highlighting. So depending on the function of the code, it has different colors. It can work with multiple files. You can see you can plot inside the IDE as well. And overall, it's just a very nice tool for writing code. But there are many IDEs available, so it really depends on what you prefer. So when you choose an IDE, think about what you use it for. Is it very, very simple? Maybe idle is enough. But more complex programs could be Visual Studio Code or PyCharm, or any of the other programs. You can try them out on your own because you can download them for free, and it really depends on your own preferences. But whatever IDE you choose, you're on your way to becoming a great Python coder, and have fun. Happy coding. What is a Reddit bot? A Reddit bot is a computer program that performs actions automatically on the website Reddit. Just like you and me, a bot can read posts, make comments, and even post new things on Reddit. That can be text posts, but also link posts. The cool thing about bots is that it can do all of that really fast, 24 hours a day, and without getting tired. So it's a computer program, in this case a Python program, that interacts with the website Reddit, social media website, and then can automatically do things like make posts, make comments, and post new things, read posts, basically whatever you would do as a user on the social media platform. We need Reddit bots because they can save us time. They can help us do a lot of things without us having to do it ourselves. For example, a bot can keep track of new posts about a certain topic and send us an email when there's a new one. Or a bot can automatically post a message to say hello whenever someone joins a certain Reddit group. So such kind of tasks would be very tiring if we were to do it manually. It would basically be a day job. So a bot, a robot, computer robot can automatically do that. So with our Reddit bot, you can save a lot of time and make a lot of cool things happen on the social media network Reddit. You can make also things a lot easier for yourself if you have your own subreddit and you want to automatically post maybe 1 or 10 or any amount of Reddit posts to your Reddit, to your subreddit, then the bot can do that for you. We're going to use a building block called PRAW. That's a Python library that makes it easier to create a Reddit bot. So the Pro library makes it easier for creating Reddit bots with Python. It's Python specific. So what does this PRAW stand for? It's the Python Reddit API wrapper. So basically it's a building block for making Reddit bots in Python. And it has a lot of cool tools that we can use to make our bot do whatever we want it to do. The first thing to do is to install the PRAW library or package into your computer. To do that, you can use the standard Python package manager pip, and you can just run that command, or in your programming environment install the PRAW package. And once you have it installed, you can use it inside your code. To use it, you just type import PRAW, and then you will have the whole Reddit bot library available in your Python code. Before we start creating our Reddit bot, we need to create a Reddit app. There is a special tool that will help connect our bot to Reddit and do some things there. So that is an absolutely required step, and it's also a very easy step. So you can do this by going to the Reddit website and following some simple steps. So basically you need to give your app a name and then select that you want a script and then click create app. Then you will have created a Reddit app. Once we have our Reddit app set up, you can then start using it to get information from Reddit. So you would need to copy your client ID and the client secret from your Reddit app, and then you will need those two to make the communication between your Python code and the Reddit website. So the two values are listed there, client ID and client secret, and then you would paste them in your code. So you would say client ID is the client ID you just copied, so replace this, and the client secret you would replace this. Then you are able to use the PRAW module and communicate with Reddit using the Python programming language. So you can log into Reddit. You can get data from Reddit, from any subreddit, and for example this would get 5 items from the subreddit Learn Python. You can do something with the data. For example, you can output it and show a certain score. So this would be terminal output. So you can get data just like on a Reddit website. You can read data. Your bot can read data from Reddit as well. You can add many more features with the PRAW libraries. For example, responding to comments, posting new submissions, or automating some tasks that you have. Now, posting to Reddit is very easy. So once you have those things done already, so once you have the client ID, client secret, you are logged in, you have already created an app, then you can just post to Reddit using the function called submit. So specify your subreddit, then submit your title and your text. And once you run it, it will automatically post to Reddit using the Python code. And then you can post as many times as you want. And this could be like the basic of your Reddit bot, right? So once you start your bot, or maybe your bot is running forever, and every 24 hours make some automatic post. So that's it. I hope you learned a lot about Reddit bots, and that you can now try to create your own Reddit bot using the PRAW library. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one creating the next cool Reddit bot. Have fun and happy coding. Hi there. We're going to learn about Twitter bots. So a Twitter bot is a special kind of computer program that posts messages on Twitter all by itself. That's pretty cool, isn't it? to make a Twitter bot, we need to use something called a Twitter API, or Application Programmable Interface. API is a way for us to talk to Twitter and ask it to do things like posting a message to Twitter. But you don't have to worry about all the complexity. It's a simple way to communicate with other software. So the first thing you need to do is to create a Twitter app or a Twitter developer account. If you don't have a Twitter account yet, you should create it, then create the Twitter developer account and create a new app. That will give you so-called API keys. API keys let you communicate with the Twitter software or the Twitter website. Once you have that, you can use TweetPy, a Python module, to write code for your Twitter bot to talk to Twitter. And so let's talk about TweetPy. So what is TweetPy? TweetPy is a Python module, library, or package, however you want to call it, that lets you make your Twitter bot. It's like a big box of tools that makes the job easier. You don't have to worry about whatever Twitter is doing. You just can communicate directly with the Twitter software saying, I want to tweet, and it will tweet to your Twitter timeline. So with TweetPy, you can talk to the Twitter API without having to worry about all the hard stuff, or with any API for that matter. So let's install the TweetPy module. The way to install it is just typing pip install TweetPy. So you open a terminal and then you type and press enter. That installs TweetPy to your computer. So that's it. You just use the pip package manager, the Python package manager, to install it. So it could be in this way. If you use an IDE like PyCharm, you need to do it inside the IDE. But it is that easy. Now that you have TweetPy, you can start to make your Twitter bot. You just have to write a little bit of code, and then your Twitter bot will be ready to go. So here's what the basics might look like. You need to put your API keys, so you can get all of these from your Twitter app, in here. And then you load the TweetPy, of course, the module. You need to authenticate. So this is all just standard code. What you need to do is to replace all these values that you can get from the Twitter website. So if we look a few slides back, you'll see we need to go to the Twitter developer site to create a new app, and then you can get the API keys that you see here. You need those keys in your code, and then you paste them in here. So that is what it might look like. Then you are connected with Twitter, so you can create a new API object and start to post to Twitter with the function update status and then whatever text you want to put onto Twitter, and it will then automatically do it. So that's it. Now this is an example of what the full program might look like. So now you have a Twitter bot that can post messages on Twitter all by itself. Cool, right? But one thing to keep in mind is that once you register on Twitter for to create an app, it might take some time because they review whether you're using it for legal purposes. Well, that sums it up for the Twitter app. So if we go back a few slides, these are the actual steps that you need to do to create a Twitter app, and I showed you the code on the last slide. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot about Twitter bots and how you can use the TweetPy library to make your own Twitter bots. Bye for now.